Aren't you sick and tired of listening to people trying to tell you how to be and what to do and what's cool for this or that or whatever? We're going to talk about this today, friends. Thank you very much for joining me here. It's another day. It's another sports card video. How are you doing? We are midway through the week. It's Hump Day Wednesday.
Guard this, little boy. Ow, my hip. Larry Bird. Hey, oh, here you go. Psych, Larry Bird. Gotta watch your head, young fella, cause it's Don't worry, Kevin, I see you. Just gotta give it a little and with that little jab step back. Oh, ain't that unfortunate. Larry Bird. Dag nabbit, I'm behind the backboard. Larry Bird. Oh, yeah.
And I am excited to be here with you all, so thank you very much for joining me here. Before I get started talking about all the goodness, let's thank today's video sponsor as well as some of our other partners, MyCardPost. Now over 7,600 members on this site, free to buy, free to sign up and to buy and to trade, but $9 to $22 per month. It's his first subscription service for selling cards on the site. When you think about how much you spend in fees with eBay, let's just say $9 a month to $22 a month, depending on how many listings you've got on MyCardPost, it is very, very reasonable. Great deal. A lot of really, really cool cards. You can interact with all of the, the buyer sellers, all the members can interact with each other. There's a feed where people can post, hey, trading for this, trading for that. It's definitely a community that they're building over there at MyCardPost. So definitely check out. I've got a link in the video description as well as in the pinned comments to check them out. VintageBreaks.com. If you can believe this, they've got vintage breaks actually sold out of a 50 Bowman set break, as well as a 51 baseball Bowman. Yes, Mickey Mantle rookie card. Yes, Willie Mays rookie card. They just recently sold out of that one. They do have spots available for 52 Topps baseball set break. Vintage Breaks does a great job with bonuses and giveaways. So definitely check out what they've got going. I'll have a link for them as well down below. Wooten Sports Cards on Whatnot. If you're a Whatnotter and you're like, who should I go and take a gander at? It's got to be Wooten Sports Cards. The guy sells out just about weekly. So popular, he's got 11,000 followers on Whatnot, 5-star reviews. He is the man over there on Whatnot, so definitely check out Wooten Sports Cards today. All right, friends, I've been thinking about this, and it's kind of fun how this hobby works because everybody's got an opinion about everything, and that's what kind of makes this fun. Different people collecting different things and so forth. And this isn't even limited to just hobbyists, but also just, family or friends. People of all ages, and I see this whether this is a 20-year-old or if it's a 60-year-old, people a lot of times are looking for approval or acceptance from their peers, from their family, and so forth. And granted, I think that it's great to have that. It's great to have acceptance or, friends that are like, you're doing good, you're cool, whatever. But the real truth is that none of that really matters. The only thing that really matters, we got one life to live. All of us, we got one shot at this thing. And some of us, I think, live like we're going to live for 400 years or something. It doesn't really matter what anybody thinks. And I'm going to kind of parlay this into just collecting cards, buying into collectibles as a whole. Obviously, live within your means. So, if you've got a wife, a family like I do, I can't just willy-nilly just buy anything, buy whatever I want to. I have to answer to the family. The family comes first. Got to make sure that everybody is taken care of. And then after all that, then we can kind of get into this fun game of collectibles that we're playing here. But there is a lot of, even just like card groups, there's collector groups for different players, different sets. And you have to just ask yourself, when you're buying a card for a particular player, are you buying it because of the camaraderie that comes with being in a group? Are you here for the group more than the actual cards? Because I think that that's actually an important thing to decipher. Are you buying that rare card? Are you buying into this particular set because you know that so-and-so is going to be, wow, that's a really cool card, and you're going to kind of get that affirmation, from the group? Or is it something that you really want to own and obtain? Because in the end of the day, it's your money that's going to go out the door. And again, if you have a family on the backside too, then it's going to be like, okay, did you buy it because you really love it? Did you buy it because that's a player that you're really into or that you believe in long term? If it's not just a set of 89 score football like what I've got, $40 in a binder. No, maybe it's a $5,000 card that you're buying is kind of more of a store of value. I think this is going to do well over time, or at least hold its value over time, and I think it's amazing and I want to own it. And just the pride of ownership of owning that particular card. For me, you guys know if you watch my channel, I'm collecting Drew Brees cards. I'm a season ticket holder, a 35 25-year Saints fan, so Drew Brees is my guy. That's clearly not trendy. It's not trendy to buy Brees cards. There's not tons of Brees collectors. They're out there. There's quite a few compared to other players. Shout out Drake's PC. There are, Saints Brees card collectors for sure, but it's not on the same level as a Michael Jordan or Tom Brady or some of these other guys, obviously. I also collect Stranger Things cards. That's very, very niche. I know of a handful of other collectors that buy into those cards, but I love that. I love the fact in a world where everybody's buying, speculating on all these different things, and you feel like, oh, I'm going to look this up and see where the prices are. Oh, it's expensive because there's already a bunch of speculators in on it. Stranger Things has been great because it's my family's favorite show, and then there's cards that nobody knows about. I was able to get in on them inexpensively going back a couple of years. I've spent some good money on kind of the best ones, but for the most part, if you compare it to sports cards or even Star Wars cards or some of the other popular stuff, Pokemon on the non-sports side, it's not even in the same galaxy from a price standpoint, given the rarity of a lot of those cards. So that has been fun for me. I do have Tom Brady. Tom Brady's kind of the GOAT that I collect. He's kind of the GOAT that I chose based on a variety of factors. And then the other GOAT card that I'm about to purchase and I'm close on is the Star rookie card for Michael Jordan. That will be kind of my big kind of headliner card that I've got for a GOAT. I'm not going to be in the market for buying a ton of high dollar cards at all, but that is one that I've targeted and very, very close to obtaining. But really, when I make purchases, I'm not buying based on what I think other people would think is great or cool. I'm buying specifically on my own research, what I've looked into, what I am going to enjoy. Again, it goes back to pride of ownership. So think about that when buying a card. It's something that I've also just taken like a second, third look at, because you can impulse buy all day. We're all there on eBay or PWCC Weekly or Golden or wherever it is, Heritage Auctions, REA. There's all sorts of things that you can easily kind of buy into, and there's so many cool collectibles. Whether we're talking about pop culture collectibles or on the sports cards, sports memorabilia stuff, it is endless. And these auction houses just keep on coming out with all sorts of amazing stuff. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't even know that existed. So you really have to pick your spots. And again, going back to pride of ownership, to prioritize what those things are going to be. And it doesn't necessarily have to be on the high end too. Just on the lower end, there's tons of different things that you can get into. Ungraded cards, a variety of different sets, all sorts of different things that you can get into in the $5 price point, $10, $20, $50. And so you have to be choosy. And I'm speaking more on the collector side, long-term hold side. I've also got stuff I've been talking about, the Bowman U stuff that I've been buying, football mainly, and that's to buy, grade, sell. So buy it, grade it, sell it, and just having fun kind of prospecting on some players in the upcoming college season where I'm thinking, you know what? I think there's going to be some buzz around this particular receiver and or this particular quarterback, mostly quarterbacks, but I picked a couple of receivers as well and bought their cards. But those cards, honestly, all of them are in the $5 to $50 range, the vast majority of them. Some of them maybe up to $100, and then I've really splurged maybe $150 tops on an individual card for those that I'm specking on, and then it's a quick kind of grade it and move it along. I want to shift the conversation, shift the gears a little bit to this nerd culture that we're living in, all of us getting back into this, going back 5-6 years. And for some of you, you've been in it, you've stayed in it for 20 or 30 years. 5-10 years ago, I know that this was like, oh man, you're embarrassed to even talk about it, that you buy cards, Hey, what are your hobbies? You probably are like, fishing, like hunting. I'm not into cards. I'm definitely not into cards. It wasn't something that you talked about. Now I think that there's a lot more social media around this. There's more people just speaking up about it to where it is okay to be proud of. Really, and I know people are going to think this is being overly dramatic. I look at a lot of these 80s, 90s stuff, whether we're talking about sports cards or pop culture stuff, as historical artifacts, moments in time. And it can be as simple as, I saw the other day, going back to 1990, McDonald's had these cups. I'll use a couple of examples. McDonald's, you'd go get a Big Mac meal and you could get a Batman cup. When Michael Keaton's Batman came out, they had these collector cups like Collect All 6. And there's a ton of different, examples of this. But that popped up the other day, and it was such like a shot of nostalgia where I was just like, wow. That I just remember that cup, getting that at the McDonald's. I also remember at Kmart, they had this, it was either a Slurpee or it was a slushy machine, not a Slurpee machine. So it was like the Coke slushies, and then they had all the team cups. And I remember always wanting to get the Expos. We had the Expos cup. And I was thinking about just buying like a hoodie, a Montreal Expos hoodie, like a retro one, just because I don't know what it is. And I wasn't some big baseball fan, but it's just the logo and everything going back to the 80s. I love the 80s Montreal Expos, the logo, the jerseys, and all that stuff. I like a lot of Seattle Supersonics as well, going back to Sean Kemp, Gary Payton days, where you had kind of the old school Sonic stuff. Little things like that can just trigger kind of those nostalgic feelings, but it's moments in time. It's the 80s, 90s stuff, though. To me, I still think a lot of it's going to be relevant 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road. I'm not saying that those collector cups that you can get for $2 are going to be $100 in 40 years. That's not what I'm saying. But will there be people that collect it and think it's cool? Yes. And I think a lot of it is tied into, as I've talked about, IP. With sports, it just continues on. It started with Jefferson Burdick going back to the 30s. In 1937, he published his Card Collecting Digest, or that's not the name of it, but essentially kind of a newsletter type thing. In 1937, we're going back, so 90 years or so, Jefferson Burdick got it going, and he was the weirdo back then. He was the weirdo that was taking all the cards and gluing them into albums. And, then it just kind of moved on from there. And then it really got supercharged in the 1980s. So to me, again, sounding cheesy, I feel like we're collecting artifacts. We're collecting, stories here, just not the same as other collectibles or antiques. One of my buddies, great YouTuber, Sean, Reserved Investments, he's very reserved when it comes to collectibles, but he buys, sells, trades. He's been in it a long time. And he'll make, comparisons to like Lionel trains, where you could collect these train sets or these train pieces. For me, I look at, and I'm not saying he's comparing that to pop culture collectibles, because obviously it's a different space. They're all different, but I just look at the things differently. The 80s, 90s, the IP, those brands that were built in those decades, that not only are they carrying over to now, but the next generation that's going to be an adult like me in 20, 30 years, they're also into Pokemon. They're also into Marvel. They're also into Star Wars. So you've got multiple generations that are interested, heavily interested, not a little bit interested, heavily interested in these things and collecting these things, speculating in these things or whatever. Not only that, but we've seen huge money come in from business and also media. There's never been more hobby news, whether we're talking about sports cards or comic books or graded games or whatever we're talking about here. There's never been more media. Social media, again, just kind of supercharging it. What will that look like in 10, 20, 30 years? I still think it's fairly niche for quite a few of these different categories. Not necessarily sports cards, but on a lot of these other collecting categories, I think it's still fairly niche. So we don't need to apologize to anyone, my friends. Like, we are the cool ones. I know this was like the nerdy thing that you couldn't talk about, like, oh my God, I can't let my family or friends know what I'm doing. No, we are the cool ones now. It's in. Nerd culture is here, and it's here to stay, and we don't need to apologize for any of that. All right, my friends, that is all I've got for you today. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.